Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, probably want to turn down that fan even though it is rather warm in here because I just got to working out. I wanted to extend my voice to whatever it is that comes about. I think I was sitting here meditating and the spirit just compelled me to talk, so I'm pretty sure something will come. But I've spoken a lot about what I've seen in my phone with children dying in Gaza, and today is the day that the infamous bombing of the hospital took place. It's been said, and I don't know what is true because I didn't see it myself, but it's been said that the Israeli government took credit saying that Hamas soldiers were stuck, had barricaded themselves in that hospital, and they had blown that hospital up because of it. Then when the footage of what resulted in that took place, they recanted that statement and then said that it was Palestinians who bombed their own hospital by accident or something of that nature. I do not understand how anyone can call themselves humanitarian and not speak out against this. There are a lot of people who are being quiet about this, and I'm irritated by that truth. I don't doubt that some people shouldn't be speaking up because they don't know what to say or don't have the right words. I don't know that I have the right words. Maybe they're not seeing everything that I'm seeing, and maybe they're not following the people on IG that I'm following, so they don't get to see the horrors that are taking place in the way that I believe I've seen them. Maybe they're getting their intel from somewhere else, and maybe they know some things I do not know. I don't know what's going on with the celebrities out here that are not speaking up on this. IG people, I don't understand this. This is the type of thing that you really lend your hand to at least put a flag up saying you support something. It's anything. I'm not seeing nothing from people who I know have children, who I know are responsible for families of their own. And while, like I said yesterday, there's plenty of things happening in this earth that we already knew about. People, children being mistreated, all different types of different things that go on this earth. People stealing people's land throughout history and time. I don't know that this is much different, but that we see it. And that a lot of the people who are quiet call themselves humanitarians. That they would be quiet in this circumstance. I just need to know who is telling you to be quiet. Because I know there's some of y'all who have been told to be quiet. And those are the people we need to know. That's what it really comes down to. Who is advising you to be quiet? Is it your lawyers? It is your PR people? Is it some entity in the dark that we don't know about but you do, who is threatening you? I need to know why some of my favorite celebrities haven't said anything about the horrors that we're seeing, but are quick to say something about other things. Call themselves humanitarians, say they donate money to this and that. We are seeing what we're seeing here, man. And I'm really, really confused as to how to look at some of y'all. I really am. I don't know what to say. I think we're living in an instant world. Maybe you think that if you say something now and this goes a certain way, it ain't gonna age well and this and that. I don't know if some of y'all really just honestly don't care, but you want us to care about what it is that you do for a living, do you not? I mean, I understand that the president and his people are on their own type of time because they have a certain thing they have to do to keep their interests going, and they could care less about stuff like this when it really comes down to it. But even them, I have to say, your jobs are basically held up by the people who vote for you. And the people who are voting for you are telling you that this is something that is bothering them. If I'm to believe that my vote counts, now is the time to show me that it does. Because I'm telling you, if I'm telling you this bothers me, and you are trying to send me in different directions, a misdirection and all this different stuff, you want to talk about policies that have nothing to do with this, you want to tell me you only support on one side and that side happens to be the one that's doing all of this, that tells me that my outrage is not influencing you in the way that you tell me it should by way of these votes counting. That there is another entity at play that is more important than myself as a voter. And that is not what you tell me when you sit up on your polls and debate each other. It's supposed to come down to me and others who are voting. But if the grand majority of us are telling you that this is something we want you to do something about, and you're not reacting to us but more so reacting to something else, which is telling you to ignore the people, then that speaks to something that we should understand that we obviously don't as a people. That there is another entity in place that holds more weight than the people. And that is what I'm coming to believe as I watch this. As I look at this, I say, there is another entity in play that we've long speculated about, and we're seeing their influence imposed upon those who would otherwise speak. And the people need to understand that the next time they tell you that your vote counts, or the next time they tell you that you're the most important thing in regards to their jobs, you remember these moments. Because you're telling them you don't want to hear anything other than them condemning this behavior. And they're not only ignoring you, but they're telling you other stuff. They're not even acknowledging you. People want to talk about skull and bones, Illuminati, and aliens, and all different types of other stuff. The presence of something much more influential is in plain hidden sight, if you ask me. Plain hidden sight. And no, I didn't mistake those words. That is exactly what it is. And it's frustrating because on this channel we talk about the people behind the curtain and the things that they invest in that ultimately deteriorate my people's image. And then I look at what's going on in Israel, and I just can't. I don't know. What am I to say? And we done talked about all the Kyrie stuff, the Kanye stuff. What am I to say? And we fast forward 6 months, and this is what we're seeing. From where? From whom? I watched Hebrews to Negroes, y'all. I watched that movie. I didn't read the book, but I watched the movie. And we fast forward. What are we seeing? What are we seeing? I want you to tell me what we're seeing, because I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Seems like there's a whole lot of influence going on and ain't got nothing to do with my interests, my opinions, my outrage, my trauma, that of what is going on in my phone. As I sit here and say I want my government to do something about it, and then all they doing is supporting Israel. At what? To do? Supporting them in doing what? Exactly. Like I told everybody 6 months ago, watch that movie. Just go back and watch that movie. Y'all didn't want to hear Kyrie say nothing about it. Y'all called him anti this, anti that for just posting that movie. Well, I'm telling you that now that we're here and we're seeing this, watch that and watch what I told y'all to watch last night, which was something called Creation and Catastrophe. Those are two things we need to see now. We need to see those. I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on. I don't care who you believe in, what you believe in. It's time for all of us to see both of those. It's time. I no longer want to hear anything about supporting Israel. I don't, because they got all the support in the world. And this is what they did with it on this day. They took one of them bombs that we sold them and they sent it into a hospital full of children. I saw with my own eyes a doctor holding a child, his guts hanging out of his stomach, head blown apart, no older than 11 years old. And that's probably about the 30th or 40th dead child I've seen in the last 3 days. Okay? So for me, I'm not really interested in what anybody got to say, because every one of them kids was on the other side of Israel's conflict. Every one of them. And while I can question if somebody's trying to set Israel up to make them look like they're worse, I don't doubt that that's worth questioning. Because as I always say, when you talk about such circumstances like these, it ain't those who are worthy of being condemned that get the condemning. It's usually the innocent people that you see every day that end up getting condemned. I'm not interested in that. Why? Because I see plenty of good Israeli people, plenty of good Jewish people condemning these acts. Plenty. So there will be none of that going on here. But what I would tell you is, when you look at what took place there, based on what it is that I saw on the Creation and Catastrophe conversation, that documentary rather, this is poor people trying to push poor people out of their land, and then they wouldn't let them come back because they were afraid of being outnumbered. Those who were in charge of that are not going to be living in poverty for any length of time at all. That's what needs to be understood. They stand way away, bark orders to the poor, let the poor fight the poor, and then let the people backlash the poor on their side as they sit in their mansions, as they sit in agreement with other rich people who too have influence over this. Where are the rich Arabs? Where are the wealthy Arabs in situations like this? All these dudes got all the money in the world. Where are you now? When these people are out here slaughtering children, why don't I hear from you? Why isn't your influence coming through? All the dudes in Dubai, all the great wealthy dudes, where y'all at? Y'all quick to show us all the stuff you own. Where are you now? Y'all quick to show us all the different types of luxury that you can enjoy, building $1 trillion buildings that look like big mirrors and stuff like that. Where the hell are you now? Like I said, rich people standing back, complicit with other rich people on the other side of these circumstances, shaking each other's hands. We're going to wipe out all the poor people, and then we're going to push ourselves onto these lands when we want to, or do what we want to do on these lands. It'll be robots on these lands 100 years from now or something of that nature. Why? Because this is rich people these are rich people's solutions. Wiping out poor people. I'm not confused by that. And we start looking at each other. We start looking at the people next to us. They're raising the flag. They're waving the flag. No. Nah. These are people that are not down on the ground probably making these decisions for people who are suffering. Agreeing from nation to nation to nation. 1%ers agreeing from nation to nation to nation. We're going to sit here and we're going to let them wipe each other out, blame each other, and the people are going to blame them. And we're going to keep these politicians in our back pocket, and we're going to ignore the people because we know what that does psychologically, and we're going to watch the uproar, and they're going to wipe each other out, and then from there we get to enact whatever our plan is going forward with technology. I'm not confused by this. I'm not confused by this. I've prayed about this too. And so what I want to tell you is, if you're watching my channel, don't attack your neighborhood Jewish person. They don't have any influence over this. Don't attack your neighborhood Arab person if you're on the other side of it. They don't have any influence over this. And that is exactly what this is meant for us to do. Look at each other and start waving our arms and fists at people as if they have any power at all. When we can clearly see even our own politicians ain't paying attention to us. Our own politicians don't give a damn about our outrage. So please understand that theirs don't give a damn about them either. And that's the point. That's the point. It's the rich and the wealthy and the influential and those who are silent and complicit to keep their wealth together that are really here to burn for this. They're the ones that's really going to hell for this. Not the poor people, the ignorant, those who are down there, boots on the ground, being lied to, told why they should do what, and have been lied to for 100 years, which is why they would otherwise support and celebrate this nonsense. You have been brainwashed into believing that you are entitled to one way or another. A lot of Israeli people, I'm sure, have been brainwashed into thinking it's okay to occupy somebody's land. No different than this. We've been brainwashed to think it's okay for all of the history that's happened in this country. Canada, same thing. Occupied land, man. It takes a certain level of brainwashing to make people even be able to sleep at night in circumstances such as these. You kicking somebody else out? They kids have to go without shoes because you pushing them out? And you're supposed to be supportive of that. Why? Because your kids are kids and their kids are what, dolls? Tell me what their children are if not just children just like yours. It's the presence of this nonsense. This brainwashing, this capitalistic, materialistic nonsense, racism and all these ideals that are supposed to keep us in place to help us believe that we are more while others are less, when in all actuality, none of us are anything to those who are in charge of this. And the sooner we start raising up and realizing that a lot of these ideals have been in place just to keep us complicit with stuff like this, so that we'll look at someone else's race and say they're not children, they don't have children, those aren't children, those are dolls, can be wiped away like roaches. We're going to realize someday, at some point, what it is that I'm realizing right now, which is that we're all roaches to those who are really in charge of this. And this is raid. I told y'all I believe in a God, so I speak truth to power. I'm not afraid. And maybe that's because I haven't seen some of the horrors that can be inflicted upon people who speak like me. But my thinking is this. At some point in time, the people of today need to rise up and say, we've seen this before. We know how this goes. We've seen this before. We may not have seen the horrors of it in our phones, but we know what it looks like when ethnic cleansing takes place, when people steal somebody's land and then they build some beautiful stuff on there, turn it into resorts 50, 60 years from now. We know what this looks like. This is done all over the earth. It wasn't right at any point in time it was done. There was always another way. But the people never had any sway. We were just rocked to sleep by whatever cultures, whatever entertainment, or whatever garbage is in our faces to make us not give a damn. Listening to the agenda of callousness that comes across our airwaves. I'm not going to point out any names, but it's a lot of us who just don't give a damn about the poor, and we let people know in every way, shape, and form. It's all about our wealth. It's all about how much money we get, and this, that, and the third. And so, when events like this take place, we're supposed to be rocked to sleep to say they're poor. Shame them. Let's get the money. That's it. Don't you see how you've been rocked into that? A lot of us have been rocked into that. We think the only thing worth having is money. Okay, cool. That's what's going on over here. They want you to be callous about what goes on in these circumstances as they continue to have these plans in place. Plans been in place for 70 years to wipe out our land. And they couldn't have you uprising against it, so they needed you to be materialistic. They needed you to be. Did y'all get it? Been brainwashed into shaming the poor and thus having a need to love money. You ain't never gonna be outraged when you see stuff like this. Not as fully outraged as you need to be to use your influence to do something about it, celebrity. And any celebrities that was able to change the world, really change the world through their influence, they were either killed or somehow fell in line eventually. Scared enough, shamed enough to fall in line somehow. I'm telling you, it ain't as simple as let me get me and mine and that's it. There are things going on around here that no matter how much I get in regards to my money and my situation, is no matter how much I make, I'm never going to be able to shame those who do this into doing what they need to do to keep it from happening. Because it's a lot of people who are agreeing upon this in different places. Agreeing upon this. And it ain't just the two players in play that you're seeing right there. Big power people, big money people, shaking hands from afar. Yep, we're gonna do this. You know you're gonna lose 1 million people? Yeah, we're gonna lose 1 million people too. Who cares? We'll make 1 million more. I'm trying to tell you. If we want our lives to mean something, like I told y'all, this is the discarded generation. If we want our lives to mean something, we're going to go left when they're anticipating us going right. We supposed to be fighting with each other, and being at each other's throats, and burning each other's flags. We need to start looking at who these people are. Because we outnumber them. And they need us to be rocked to sleep so that we don't realize that. They don't never want civil unrest coming their way. Usually we want to tear up our own neighborhoods when we get upset at something. But that's not how you're going to go make this go away. All I'm telling people is I've been meditating. I've been meditating a lot lately, and I think all of you should do the same thing. Don't take any word from me on anything. Meditate. Give your own mind and your own God some you time. Figure this out for yourself and what position you want to take. Because the first thing the enemy wants you to do is react. That's the first thing he wants you to do. And then think. Or then deal with the consequences of reacting. That is not how you handle stuff like this. I asked the Lord to help me lend my voice to this because I feel ashamed that I'm a grown man and I'm not protecting those kids somehow. I'm not somewhere shooting something to protect those kids. Especially since I don't have any of my own. I'm an able-bodied guy. I should be doing something. And I feel like there are a lot of people who are silent right now who feel the same way. You need to meditate. You need to ask yourself, well, where do you stand in regards to this? When history unfolds your name and how complicit you were with this, like Joe Biden's name is about to be, you don't want that. Some of y'all need to be saying something for the betterment of your legacies and your legacy of your children and the legacy of your grandchildren and your last name going forward. I'm telling y'all, some of y'all are entirely too famous to be this quiet. And who's ever telling you to be quiet understands that much more fully than you do. Trust me, they understand that. And they're going to protect their house. Know that. They're going to protect theirs. And I think this is what this looks like. There's real evil in this world, there's real misdirection in this world, and there are real answers out there that they don't want you to have. About what it is they really about, where it is they really from, and where it is they really not. And I'm sure we're going to find out more and more as we continue to get more curious about what it is that we're seeing here. Today was the biggest red flag of them all. They took credit for it. And then when they saw we weren't feeling what they did, when they saw that we saw what was going on there, And they're like, hold on, no, that ain't what it was. Hold on, they did it. They did it to themselves. Like they gonna blow up their own hospitals. Occupy other people's land and invest in other nations' deterioration of their brown people. Help me understand if that's not what I'm seeing here. Tell me that's not what I'm seeing here. The deterioration of the image of black people. I'm seeing that. And then when I look around, I see brown people treated like this over there. I see people who are of Muslim faith being treated horribly in China. I look up and I see people in the Congo being pushed out of their homes. I look up and I see indigenous people in Canada being treated poorly. Native Americans treated poorly here. The browner we are, the worse we're treated. That is it. Rarely do you see it being somebody like that taking somebody's land, man. Rarely do you see it somebody like this occupying somebody else's stuff. That's not how this ever goes. And if I'm wrong, forgive me. But that ain't what the history is showing me. That's not how this goes. It's going to take everybody, all of the people who are being discarded of, everybody alive, and everybody's going to be alive over the next 100 years. It's going to take y'all putting down the agreement of culture that is meant to keep your minds locked into certain truths that will otherwise keep you quiet. It's going to take us unlearning that nonsense to fully, truly be able to see what's happening here. Because as long as we're locked into these agreements that money comes first, that we're going to take care of ours, we don't care about nobody else, that the people around us don't care about us, and there's no compassion around, so we don't need to agree to any, they can find themselves nestled very, very deeply in those spaces from which we are not. That is the truth. That's where they hide. In between you and you who don't give a damn about one another because you learned how not to. By way of religion, by way of passed down evils of racism or classism or sexism or whatever the ism is. They get to sit there in those vibes where you are not, and pull strings and make agreements that affect your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and everybody else's too. And they get to murder children right in front of you, and you ain't gonna do a damn thing about it. Why? Because you don't live outside of those spaces from which money is your God. And because of it, they get to be God. Right in front of you. It's your weaknesses that they're able to control you by. Your need for this, your need for for everybody to look at you and say I'm respected, and you know my people and what we own is what's most important. No. And if you don't care about us, then we don't care about you. They're able to function as long as you're being like that. That's why you stop being on low frequency. That's why you stop being materialistic. That's why you turn away from sexual nature. That's why you protect children no matter where they're found. That's why you do certain things that pull you away from certain sin. It's because the enemy controls you by way of said sin. Lies, the need to lie, the need to be in the dark, the need to make quick money, all of these different things are where they have these people by the balls. This is why you discipline yourself against anything that keeps you impure, because those who want to control you will control you by way of that impurity. Yes, that's why. It wasn't just to punish you and keep you from having fun. That's not why God wanted you not to sin. It's because he had the enemy that he's fighting against, the spiritual warfare we're in. This is how that energy continues to win. It's because we're not disciplined away from it. We're not meditating within the spaces from which that purity can be, so that we can see where they're nestled, and they can't have us by the balls in all these various different ways. Once we find all of ourselves not functioning on that frequency, they don't have the sway to do the things that they do. They control you by way of what it is that you feel you need that you don't. You really don't need. Stuff that's ultimately meant to deteriorate you and your household. I'm not saying I haven't mastered. I just know what I need to point toward. I just know where I need to go. I ain't there yet. I'm in this culture just like the rest of y'all. But I understand, for some weird reason, how they're able to continue to do these things. It's by way of our sin. It was never about you. When God said you don't need to be doing this and you shouldn't do it now, and all these different words that he used to try to keep us intact, it was never about you. The world we're in wants us to make us feel like everything's about us, but it ain't never been about you. It was about fighting them, the enemy, whomever they are, and whatever agreements they may have. It was about winning that war. And when we find ourselves so selfish and not rooting for one another, not praying for one another, it made it very easy for the enemy to use that separate, divide and conquer. That's how it works. When everybody's rooting for one another, when everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, holding up their end of the bargain, when everybody's willing to agree to let others live and to not worry about being outnumbered and all these different things. When you do that, the enemy ain't got nowhere to go. And when you let children get destroyed by way of your agreements, trying to keep your business going, trying to keep your image in a space, or trying to keep your whatever, believe me, man, it's going to hurt you on the back end. It's just inevitable. The world will never be the same after what we've seen in our phones. And the people will start having more conversations such as these, because that's where we're headed. So you need to get with the times. If you're making music, it's time to stop poor shaming. We're there now, because this is what tumbles forward from that. If you don't want to be a snooty bastard that continues to keep people in positions to have their children slaughtered, you need to stop being so damn materialistic in your music. You need to stop being so materialistic in your art. Hear me clearly. It's okay to enjoy your life. It's okay to enjoy your riches. I'm not telling you that I wouldn't enjoy being wealthy. But when you put people down for not having, this is where the enemy's able to nestle himself very comfortably. Because by way of that culture, he's going to have you by the balls. And some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all know some of the best music out, some of the most influential artists out are poor shaming right on time for this to be taking place. And a lot of them don't really want to. I know they don't. Some of them got kids. You understand what I'm saying? Popular music is just a reflection of what it is that we're supposed to be about. But what it really is an influence upon who it is they want us to be. As we always say, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? In this case, it's the suggestion that there's a chicken and an egg. I'm telling y'all, that's what comes first. It's the notion that such things exist. And then we move forward with culture. Then we move forward with agreements. Then we move forward and sway in whatever direction or corner we're going to fall into. Away from them, away from you, away from me. It doesn't work. People need to come together on a united front. Rich, poor, gay, straight, black, white, all of it. This is the only way. Because when you consider what it is that we're actually dealing with, it's the separation of people, dividing and conquering us from on high where we are not. And they're expecting us to be looking at each other saying, you're not like me, I'm not like you, we can't relate, and therefore we shouldn't. That's what's killing those kids. That is what is actually happening to them. If you really want to know, the root of it is nestled somewhere in there. I'm not mad at my Israeli brothers, because my Israeli brothers aren't doing this. And they shouldn't be mad at their Arab brothers, because their Arab brothers aren't doing that, for which they're upset about. That's not what's happening there. There are people agreeing to this with all of the money in the world that they control from different parts of the globe. They are agreeing upon this. And that's what we're seeing here, in my humble opinion. But always remember, the people do have some sway, because God does exist. A lot of us don't believe in God, and that's also where they can nestle comfortably within your lack of belief. Best believe that is where they're able to, that's just another culture that hurts us, is people who don't believe. So therefore they're going to do dark things, and then that's going to play into the hands of the evil. It just is what it is, man. It is spiritual warfare, but it's actually how the functionality of things really work when you break down the math of it. It's your lack of belief in something greater than yourself that will allow you to do the things that ultimately get you caught by the balls. Don't y'all get that? You don't believe in God, but the enemy's working right in front of you, using you, moving people around, playing chess with all of our lives. And we're supposed to sit here and think about ourselves when we watch stuff like this on our phone, but that's a glitch in the matrix. See, it doesn't work. Compassion is real, God is real, and that's why we're seeing all of this. That's why we're reacting to it the way that we are. And those who want us to stay in that matrix, or those who are supposed to be keeping that matrix intact, so to speak, they're still behaving as if we're behaving the way that we're supposed to behave, and we're not. Because God does actually exist. See, if he didn't, this would be fine. But since he does, people like me are speaking the way that we are. It is time. It is time for us to start fathoming something greater than the cultures that we engage in. The deterioration of black women and black men, deterioration of Spanish people in this country, pushing them out of the way, deterioration of the Caucasian brother and sister being told that they're supposed to be supremacists and all this stuff is their fault. This is what this is really about. This is what it is. We need to change that notion amongst ourselves. While they try to suggest various different things, they who is on high, by way of their little fake accounts or whatever they're doing, by way of their celebrities that they have bought and paid for, by way of their politicians they have bought and paid for, that allegedly we're supposed to be voting in, but we know damn well we don't have no sway over them. And I guess you're supposed to be able to get your wealth, and that's supposed to protect you, right? But why is it that some of the most wealthy people don't feel confident in being able to speak right now? Ask yourself that. If money is God, why can't the most wealthy speak right now? We know they care about kids. We know they care about their own, right? Why they ain't speaking? Because no matter how much money you get, if you're not in those rooms, or if they got you by the balls because of the way you made your money, you ain't gonna be able to say nothing. Not without facing the consequences that they want you to ultimately be afraid of. Look around. See, a person like myself is supposed to assume that they don't care, but I know that's not how the human heart works. I'm watching people every day care about this, and they're speaking up, but some of the most important ones, the most influential ones are not speaking. Why? So that's pretty much what's on my heart, man. I think I got it all out. Like I tell you guys, this is a meditative space for me. I'm in a hotel room. My life isn't where it needs to be. I made bad decisions with my life, blah, blah, blah. And it tumbled forward to me being able to say these things at this time, so I have no regrets. It's like I always tell y'all, some of the stuff that I be talking about just needs to be spoken on. And if I was doing what I was quote-unquote supposed to be doing, I would be nestled right comfortably within a space where this couldn't be done. And that wasn't going to work. If I would have went to school every day and trained my way through human training courses like all of y'all did, I would be just nestled enough in a place to fear all of this and not look at what it is I'm looking at. And I need to be able to. I'm on the outside of what makes sense in regards to y'all, and because of it, I can look at where they're hiding and tell you where they at. I've been telling you that this is how this works for me for a long time. In the various different spaces that you are not looking, I am. In the various different applications of thought that you don't have because you're too busy thinking about how you're going to do this, that, and the third for which everybody else is doing, I'm not. That is a gift and a curse. But more so a gift. I'm going to end this with a prayer, man. Heavenly Father, I thank you for bringing me here to speak this way. I do not suffer. But for those who are suffering, I ask that their lives get better, Father. And within my circumstances, I do ask, too, that you make them better. But within that better, I ask that you make me better. And I ask that you make it so that my voice is better for what it is that you intend for it to be. I ask that you also help others who are listening to me with whatever it is they're nestled in, especially if they're one of those individuals who need to speak and refuse to because they're afraid of whatever's going to happen to them and their kin. I ask that you put us all in a position to see what it is that we cannot see so that we can do what it is we need to do so that we're not discarded of, so that our children are not discarded of, so that we're not annihilated. Do what you will for the people of Gaza. Put them in a position to know what is happening to them, to protect their children, to find the aid that is ultimately not coming their way at this time. Do for the people of Israel who are confused about what it is they should be rooting for. Disarm all who would otherwise do something like this and think something is okay in this regard, and always disarm. Disarm their minds from thinking that they can nestle themselves comfortably in spaces where they only think of themselves. Disarm these bombs and these guns that allow these people to continue to shoot innocent children and women, innocent individuals. Father, I ask that you do all that you will in disarming of whom needs to be disarmed. Not everybody needs these things, as we know, Father, but for those of us who believe strongly in what it is that we need to do to protect ourselves, I ask that you give us clarity, understanding, and education, further education, as to know how best to use what it is that will protect us, not just what it is that we think will protect us. Some of us believe in guns so very much, but some of them guns are going to end up being used against us because we have them. Help us understand what it is that truly protects us. Give us more meditation in our lives, more prayer in our lives, more belief in our lives, an easier way away from sin, an easier way away from cultures that ultimately harm us and leave us in positions to be held against our will and against what means most to our voices. Father, as you put us in a position to know what our choices are going forward, put our leaders in a position to actually lead if they're to stay there, and if they're not, remove them, Father, and put people in position who will lead in position to do so that we're not sitting here watching more of what it is we've been seeing in this country specifically, but all over the world where people are not speaking properly. I ask that you take the hypocrites in office in various different nations who are speaking against these circumstances but are engaging in the same energy in the same way upon their own people. For I know you exist, God, and I know they exist as well. While they want to condemn Israel, they too engage in this nonsense. Father, I ask that you make all of who's listening to me powerful in their prayers, powerful in their lives, so that they can do what it is that they need to do to please you, regardless if they call you God, regardless if they call you Allah, or whatever word they have for you. Father, I ask that you extend upon them not only what it is that'll make them whole, but what will make them more powerful in nature, so that they can do what it is they need to do. Arm them with understanding. Arm them with the presence of safety for their children and their businesses if that's what's necessary, so they can speak out. Arm them with the confidence that you exist, so that they can meditate on what it is that you want them to do, and then use them in a way that allows them to make this world a much better, safer place for not only their own, but for their children. Disarm all of us from the different sins that ultimately keep us wrapped into spaces that are allowing us to be used by the enemy, Father. And I include myself in that. Give us the faith necessary. Lord, I ask that you take away what it is that would otherwise make us fearful, make us desensitized. May we be better for seeing these images, not worse. May we be better for being shown what true ugliness of war truly is, not worse. And for those who have already been traumatized by that, I ask for healing. I ask that you help those who are poor, truly poor, so that they have not only the ability to feed themselves, but defend themselves from war. Father, I ask that you educate children instead of allowing entities in place that annihilate them to be successful. Father, I ask that you take what it is that's harmed, who it is that's harmed rather, and put them in positions to heal those who are suffering. I ask for healing and mercy. For I know you are a gracious God, and I thank you for what it is I've asked you for, because I've been told to show gratitude beforehand, because you are a promising God and you bring forth plenty to be thankful for. I ask that you help our minds reach spaces where we can extend that gratitude even though we cannot necessarily see what it is that we're being thankful for, that we extend some gratitude is something that I know you want us to have. So I ask you place it in our hearts if it's not already there from person to person. And keep these circumstances and these ills that we're faced with from worsening in our own lives and as well as what we're seeing in the various times that we're living in. I understand that someone may be seeing this in the future, in the distant future. Father, I ask that you ascend upon whatever the ills of their day is. This does not just have to do with what we're going through, but there's always something going on in this world that requires you, Father. So this prayer is for them as well. For whatever the ills of their day is, I ask for healing, lessons learned, strength, resources, and whatever will otherwise be necessary for their moment. Holy Spirit, I thank you so much for being present in my life, and I know that you will too be present in the lives of those who hear this, because I was told you are a comforter, and I've been proven this in many ways. So whatever it is that would otherwise deteriorate that truth, I ask that you wipe it away. And I thank you very much for being present in all the different names that you are, and all the different ways that we pray. May our spirits be enriched in what it is that you want us to have on this day and going forward. Praise the Lord. Amen. BDF 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.